Good afternoon, Achan. Today I'm going to summarize the lesson that I have learned from you is SLA. And in this video, I'm going to describe 5 parts of SLA. The first one, I'm going to describe about the context of SLA. Second, the differences between language learning and language acquisition. Third, 5 stages of learning second language. First, SLA theory, and the last one, my own reflection. Let's go to number one. At the context of SLA, we have two different contexts. The first one is economic, another one is in education. If we're talking about SLA in economic, it refers to the service level agreement between service provider and client. In education, we refer to the second language acquisition, and in this video, I'm talking only in education context. Let's go to number two, the differences between language learning and language acquisition. Language learning refer to the learning formally that the student need to learn at school. They need to learn to survive, they need to learn the grammatical structure correctly. And language acquisition is the way that the student learn informally, naturally, without thinking about the grammatical structures. They, they try to use the natural language in to understand the message. Sometimes teacher provide a comprehensible input I+1 in the class. And the best stage to acquire the language in this part is the productive stages, the early productive stage. And now let's go to number three. I'm going to tell you about the 5 stages of learning second language. The first one, pre-production. Or we call another one is the silent period, that since the children were born until 6 months, and during this one the children just only draw and point, no, non-verbal activity or action, something like that. And number two, the early pre-production, the age from 6 months to 1 year. The children in this period they have limited comprehension, limited understanding of the language, but actually they can produce only 1 or 2 words responses. Number three, talking about the speech emission, from 1 to 3 years old, through 3 years. In this period, like the children just can produce simple sentences. They have good comprehension, good understanding in language. However, they still have make grammatical errors in using the language. Number four, I'm talking about the intermediate fluency, from 3 to 5 years, and children have excellent comprehension, understanding of the language. Actually, they still produce few grammatical errors when they speak or in the language, something like that. Number five, I'm talking about the advanced fluency from 5 to 7 years. In this part, like the children, like they can be a native level of speaking. They understand well, excellent understanding. More, they can figure out the language. They can produce the grammatical structure correctly, something like that. And let's go to number four, part four, the SLA theories. In SLA theory here, we have 5 parts that I'm going to summarize what I have learned from you. The first one, the acquisition learning hypothesis. This one we have 2 parts: acquire system that we already learned. That means student learn naturally, or inductive approach based on the student centers. And another one, learns system that student learn at school, or we can use deductive approach because of the teacher centers. And number two, we're talking about the monitor hypothesis. This one talking about the observation, the planning, editing, and correcting. In this part, if teachers observe students speak natural way, it's called poly apparent, from natural to formal. And individual variation of the student or the person. In this one, we divide into three parts. The first one we call overuser, or we can say introvert, or we can say another one perfectionist. This kind of person like try to make the correct language. They try to make the language properly, use the language properly. I mean, they try to observe and then they use it correctly. Another one we call underusers, or we can say extrovert. Extrovert here, like the person doesn't use language properly during this. I mean, this kind of action here. They don't use the language properly. Another one is optimal user. Optimal user, like the person is in well communication, or we can say the good communicator, excellent communicating with other people. And another one here, let's go to number 3, the natural order hypothesis. This one, like the order that student get grammatical, we can predict by mother tongue, age, background, exposures, and individual difference. Number 4, let's talk about input hypothesis. This one is the challenge. If we can use I+1 or comprehensible input for the class, in case that we have in the class we normally have a slow learner and fast learner. So as a teacher, we have to make the task that challenge for the fast learner in order to avoid the boring class in the class. So we have to be aware. We have to put extra tasks that challenging for for everyone in the class. Not too easy and not too hard, but a challenge. Let's go to number 5, affective filter hypothesis. This one we're talking about the mind, social, how we got inspiration in the class. Make sure that the class, the student know its depression. I mean, we can make the class more enjoyable in order to get attention from the student, like confident, open mind, or positive mind, something like that. As a teacher, we have to consider in this part because it's very important in order to teach the student effectively and the student can participate well. So we have to think about the affective filter hypothesis. For my own reflection here, I think that for the teachers or as a teacher, we should know how to deal with the problem in the class, especially for SLA is important for teaching the student. We have to know the difference between language learning and language acquisition, what stages that we should teach student, what stages that we should provide the suitable material to the student. If we know SLA, the state of learning second language, so as a teacher we can design or make the good teaching material to the student. For example, like for advanced fluency, what the teachers should do in the class because from 5 to 7 year, what activity that we can do in the class, something like that. And one more, based on the SLA theory, we have 5. Actually, I prefer to use affective filter hypothesis that I mentioned about this one because in 21st century education, and we can see many problems happen with the student mind, and sometimes they got depression because the class is so boring. They have many tasks to do. That's why as a teacher we have to motivate, encourage students to participate, provide good teaching material, fun class. We can make the student build student confidence in speaking and involved in the class. I mean, let them enjoy the class. I mean, as a teacher we have to make the classroom enjoy, fun, and then don't put too much impression, too much pressure to the student. Thank you.